Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report. And coming up on today's show, some insane, some crazy NFL head coaching rumors around the silver and black. And, we sit up here and I don't think there's anybody on God's green earth that wants Pete Carroll to return. But I also am somebody that I like to look at a lot of other stories around the NFL because it can impact the Raiders. Because if we sit up here and we're going, we're probably going to have a different head coach this next season, you also have to wonder, well, if other teams move on from their head coaches, or if there's other head coaches that just randomly pop up into the cycle, could they potentially be a name that Mark Davis, Tom Brady look at? We're going to look at 3 coaches right now on today's show that I think you guys would say, man, that would be crazy if the Raiders hired them. But if you haven't already, make sure you click that like button because I'm ready for a fun Raiders season. I love the offseason. I'm just so sick and tired of shitty regular seasons. And, as a Raiders fan, you always got to look at it as glass half full. You got to be a hopeful Raiders fan or else I don't know how you can be a hopeful fan, right? Like, you just got to find hope in any way possible. I want a new head coach. I'm ready to be able to enjoy the regular season because I hate the fact that it's December and I'm already ready to move on to next season. Let's go to the first coach that was at least brought up in some NFL head coaching rumors, and his name is Bill Belichick. Now, before you say, Mitch, why do you want Bill Belichick? The names that you're going to see on this show are not people that I want. There's just head coaching rumors out there into the world, and when you see this report from Josina Anderson, you can't tell me that you don't think that she's talking about the Las Vegas Raiders here. So, this is from Josina. I am told at least 2 NFL teams are still expected to have interest in talking to Bill Belichick behind the scenes, at the very least, about head coaching jobs this carousel season, per a league source. A third team could also enter the mix with desires to talk, particularly if one specific personnel change is made under ownership, the source added. So, when you look at right now the openings for head coaching jobs, there's the New York Giants opening, there's the Tennessee Titans opening. I will tell you all this right now. I have no interest in Bill Belichick being the next Raiders head coach. Very, very clear on it. But I also know that Josina Anderson is alluding to that third team. Let's be honest with ourselves here. When you hear the name Bill Belichick and she's alluding to that third team, I think she's alluding to the fact that Bill Belichick and Tom Brady were, probably the greatest NFL head coaching quarterback dynasty that we have ever seen in football with 6 Super Bowls together. And I know that Bill is up there in age, and I know he's with North Carolina, but I think I could also simply say that, well, Bill's not getting it done in North Carolina right now, and I don't know if he's even going to return next season. Now, Bill has obviously said that he has no plans of returning to the NFL. I know that, and you know that, and he does have a good resume when you look at all the resumes that are there. I also know that Mark Davis loves the old name, and Mark Davis loves being able to bring in somebody that has that proven resume. What scares me is, would Tom Brady say, hey, I actually think it would be a good idea to bring in Bill Belichick? I hope that he wouldn't, but when you see that report from Josina Anderson, you can't tell me that there won't be people that connect Bill Belichick to the Las Vegas Raiders. And one of the things that I want to do on this show is because when I see NFL rumors out there, I get asked questions. So I like to be able to give my opinion. And I'm going to give you my opinion right now. What would be your one-word reaction if the Raiders hired Bill Belichick next season to be their head coach? Because, again, he's got a great resume. Him and Tom Brady have accomplished a lot of great things. You can't say that they haven't. My answer coming up here right after this YouTube ad break. I don't know if it's one word, but I'm going to make it one word. Pete Carroll 2.0. I think if you were to hire Bill Belichick to be your Raiders head coach next season, Mark, it would literally be the exact same situation that we're in right now. Oh, man, I didn't know this picture was going to be on here. But again, man, it's literally Pete Carroll 2.0 because why would you hire somebody that's clearly shown that it's past them? And it clearly has passed him. Bill struggled his final years in New England. He is really, really struggling being able to build something in North Carolina. And if I was Bill Belichick, I would just focus on the relationship that I have with, my new significant other. And she's 24, really? Christ. But I would focus on that. Bill, you've already done everything that you've been able to accomplish from an NFL standpoint. you're making millions of dollars at North Carolina. I mean, I love my wife. I love Alex to death. But, like, as a 74-year-old guy, however the whole hell old he is, for him to be able to be dating a 24-year-old, Bill, just honestly, bro, like, go enjoy that. I have no interest in Bill Belichick being the next Raiders head coach. And I have had people show me the Josina tweet, and then Chugs is like, dude, have you talked about this yet? I said, I haven't talked about it yet. I'll tell you this, I got no interest at all in Bill Belichick being the Raiders' next head coach. Coming up next here, though, will the Raiders trade for a coach? And that's where this next conversation is going to go, because there's two head coaches right now that are currently employed by teams that, I don't know, I would wonder if they said, hey, I'm interested in taking another job. Could they potentially be available via trade? We'll talk about who they are here in just a moment. But today's show is operated and sponsored by our good friends over at PrizePicks. And it's the holiday season, the best time of the year for bowl games, basketball matchup, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while you and I are out here making decisions every day on which gifts to buy, maybe which 24-year-old to date, what to eat, which games to watch, there's one place where it feels good to be right, and that's on PrizePicks. And I love their new features. They always break out new features. One of the things that I love is their early payouts. Also, if your fantasy season is already over, you could still get a PrizePicks lineup in. This week, I'm showing Chugs' lineup for the Texans and Chiefs game because I'll keep saying it. I care more about the Texans beating the Kansas City Chiefs and potentially knocking them out of the playoffs than I do the Raiders beating the Denver Broncos. And I hate the Broncos. Don't get me wrong. I obviously hate Kansas City as well. But again, I'll be real. I'd be more happy if the Texans beat the Chiefs compared to if the Raiders beat the Broncos, because at this point, I want a higher overall pick. Sure, losing 10 straight AFC West games is a kick in the nuts, but also a kick in the nuts is not getting started with our sponsor PrizePicks, because this Raiders season is lost. No doubt about it. And if you want to join millions of users, then sign up for America's #1 fantasy sports app out there. Get in on the action. I know Bill Belichick is. PrizePicks is now available in 45 states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. Let's go to the next coach here that we're going to talk about, because in this video, again, there has been, I would say, multiple rumors around multiple head coaches out there that could be on the move. And oftentimes, if we're going to move on from Pete, we bring up Shula. We'll bring up Clint Kubiak. We'll bring up, I don't know, Brian Flores, LaFleur. I mean, whoever it is, because they're currently offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators. I think a lot of times we forget about guys that are currently employed as a head coach. And Josina Anderson, and I'll just say this because I know I've said before things about Josina not having all the right sources. I think sometimes, though, you got to give people respect where credit is due. And Josina last year in all the head coaching circles, there were 7 open head coaching jobs. Josina reported 5 out of those 7 before a lot of other people. So she is well connected in terms of head coaching circles. You got to be able to give respect where respect's due. Keeping tabs as we approach the Carousel season, league sources are eyeing 5 more NFL teams with projected openings at head coach, as where things stand today, while waiting to collect more data on a 6th team too. Meanwhile, there is a longtime NFL head coach out there who is considering wanting a change of scenery and has told others of these thoughts. If he acts on those lingering feelings, his departure would clearly add to the list of vacancies. I know that she doesn't mention a name here, okay? The #1 name that I personally think that she is talking about, and a name that she has proven that she has inside sources with through her multiple years of covering the NFL, it's Mike Tomlin. And, I'm live right now on the Raiders Report. We got over 1,000 people here in the building right now. Shout out to all of y'all. But Mike Tomlin is an interesting name. And I bring that up because right now I would consider Mike Tomlin a top 32 head coach on the planet. And I know last year when I brought up a name like Mike Vrabel, a lot of you are like, Mitch, he got fired. Mike Vrabel was a top 32 head coach in the NFL. Mike McCarthy is a top 32 head coach in terms of in the world right now. Just like there's 32 top quarterbacks in the NFL. There are coaches that even if they are maybe with the current team or not employed, they are in the top 32. Mike Tomlin, much better than what Pete Carroll would be. Mike McCarthy, much better than what Pete Carroll would be. And I do think it's very interesting that fans, especially in Pittsburgh, they're turning on Tomlin. And, you look at the owners right now in Pittsburgh. They're frustrated with the lack of recent playoff success. Earlier on this show, somebody was like, Mitch, Mike Tomlin's the Derek Carr of head coaches. Respectfully, I disagree with that because Tomlin has at least won a Super Bowl. He's also had 18 straight winning seasons. And I get it. He hasn't had a playoff game where they've won since 2016. But I'll also say I think one of the biggest issues with Tomlin has been he has to find that next quarterback. He's got to be able to find that next guy to be able to take over from Ben Roethlisberger because they held on to Big Ben for too long. And since then, they've been playing that quarterback carousel. But I do think this right now, if Mike Tomlin is available, if you're the Raiders, you have to entertain that idea. And I say that because I think when the Raiders hired Pete Carroll, they were looking for a CEO head coach. And if you go out and you hire a Mike Tomlin and then you go out and you add a good offensive coordinator, maybe somebody like, I don't know, a Brian Dable, maybe like a Mike McDaniel, like somebody that, has that type of success. And then you look at the defensive side of the football. People are going to want to come play for Mike Tomlin. And I know Pittsburgh hasn't won a playoff game since 2016, but 18 straight winning seasons. He's never had a losing season. I'll tell you this right now, that sounds pretty damn good for the Raiders. And to me, Mike Tomlin for the Raiders would be a hire if you can't get your young, innovative head coach. You can't get the Jesse Minter. You can't get the Shula. You can't get the Clint Kubiak. And you're like, all right, we can't get a young guy. Maybe I can get a Mike McCarthy. Or maybe I could go out and get a Mike Tomlin. Because for Josina to be talking about Tomlin, and again, I think everyone at this point is assuming that Josina's tweet is in regards to Tomlin. Because off the top of my head, I'm trying to sit there and go, who is a long-tenured head coach that I think has connections to Josina, but could there be somebody else that she's talking about? Because I do also know this, Josina is very well tied in with the Sanders family. She is very well tied in with a lot of things going on with the Cleveland Browns, and she's very well tied in with the AFC North. Again, she has been able to prove that from her years of covering the NFL. So the other name that I am thinking about, and the other name that Chugs brought up to me, Kevin Stefanski from the Cleveland Browns. And before everyone goes, Mitch, you can't bring in Kevin Stefanski. All I'm going to say is this. You do have to look at the coaching tree. Excuse me. I just swallowed something. I don't know what it was. But Kevin Stefanski, there is clear frustration in that organization with him because I don't think Stefanski wants Shedeur Sanders. I also don't think that he's made good personnel decisions from a quarterback standpoint because I think for you to trade for a guy like Deshaun Watson, for you to give him a guaranteed contract when he's got all of the allegations against him, that's Kevin Stefanski looking at all those women and saying, you're all lying. I believe Deshaun because it's the only way that you give up the amount of draft picks and the only way that you give that guaranteed contract. But to me, Stefanski clearly doesn't want Shedeur Sanders. And there is a clear disconnect in that organization with Stefanski, but Stefanski comes from a very, very good coaching tree. And that's something that you got to sit back and you got to go, all right, well, he comes from that good coaching tree. And he's been a part of the Minnesota Vikings organization. And he's been underneath some really solid head coaches in that time. I know the overall record isn't very good. And the record the last 2 seasons, it's also not very good. But he does have a lot of, we'll call it, offensive coordinator experience. To me, I wouldn't look at Stefanski and be like, that's a guy I want to bring in as a head coach. I'll be real. The only name on this show that I would entertain the idea around being a head coach is Mike Tomlin. But if you told me I could potentially get Kevin Stefanski as an offensive coordinator if he's no longer one of them in Cleveland, I think I'd entertain that idea. Again, I don't want Bill Belichick, but I saw the Josina report. Chuck's put this video together, and he was like, what do you think about Bill? I got no interest in Bill. Interest in Mike. Don't have all that much interest, though, in Kevin Stefanski. So predict it down below. That's what this show here is all about. Who is going to be the Raiders head coach next season? We've had people say that this is not an attractive job, and sometimes when it's not an attractive job, you have to pick from names like we're talking about right here. I think I can make an argument that this is a much more attractive job than what people realize. I will say you need to probably finish with a top 2 overall pick. And if you're watching this video live and if you're a subscriber of the Raiders Report, I'm going to tell you guaranteed why the Las Vegas Raiders are going to have a top 2 pick in the NFL draft this upcoming season. And if you don't believe me, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure those notifications are on, because when you get done watching that next video, you're going to go, yeah, the Raiders are going to have a top 2 pick in the NFL draft this upcoming season.